Good morning, everyone. It is the last day of September, so that means we are on day 44 of the original 25 days, doing 25 push-ups each day to raise awareness to individuals that are living with mental health issues such as PTSD, anxiety, depression, anything that could potentially lead to self-harm or suicide. So believe it or not, 44 days, 25 push-ups a day, 1,100 push-ups to raise awareness. So I'm excited about that I was able to continue all the way through and really get the message out there. So I've talked about suicide risk factors, I've talked about warning signs, I've shared facts and statistics, and I've also shared 5 different ways that we can all be involved in suicide prevention, to be there for someone else and be the one to ask and connect and be there, like I said, and also to follow up and to keep them safe. So talked about that yesterday, and today I want to talk about my son Christian. I lost Christian, it was 2 years ago on May 5th, so May 5th, 2018, and Christian died by suicide. So a lot of times when people talk about friends or loved ones that they've lost to suicide, oftentimes they'll say, I didn't see it coming. I had no idea. And honestly, I wish that was my story, but it's not. Christian had, he had the risk factors that I went over, and I guess I didn't realize how many he had until I really started researching and looking through the list. And unfortunately, as I went down the list, I could just about check off just probably almost everything on the list. When I went over the warning signs, they were there. I knew they were there. With warning signs of talk, I had a conversation with Christian probably the month before, and there were many things that were said that were on that list. I think with our loved ones, a lot of times we're afraid when we hear those things and we don't know how to respond or what to do. And for me, I was 1,500 miles away from my son. So a lot of times when a crisis did come up, it was me on the phone trying to, in a way, just kind of calm him down and try to bring a little bit of reason in, but also listen. It's a scary thing. But I want people to know that if you've been in that situation or you are a survivor of suicide, that you're not alone, that a lot of people have gone through something where maybe they suspected and still weren't sure what to do. Also, when you've been living with somebody close to you, or they're part of your life, you get kind of, I don't want to say used to, but maybe you expect, like, this is in a way typical behavior because I've seen this behavior for so many years, that this is just the way they are. They're having something might seem very dramatic, and then the next day it might seem like everything is fine. And I think that is what happened with Christian is, and any of his friends or family that spent a lot of time with Christian might understand what I'm talking about. That there were times where things were, he was very angry or irritable, or and it was hard to reason with him. But now I realize those were warning signs that I just were kind of like, well, that's just Christian. That's how he is. The other thing, one of the huge risk factors that Christian had was he also had issues with alcohol and drug usage, and that was my biggest fear, was that at a point where maybe he was intoxicated, under the influence, that maybe the reasoning or what's keeping him thinking, those things that would have kept him here, maybe those things kind of were a little bit left behind, and he kind of just wasn't in his right mind at that moment, and that is what happened. And I talked with Christian about that. I think another mistake that I made was I focused a lot on the alcohol and the drug abuse instead of realizing that was more of a symptom of the depression, the anxiety, and maybe other mental health illness, maybe that was never diagnosed. I know Christian had tried to get treatment. I know he had been into the emergency room multiple times for just injuries, also just for to the doctor for stomach issues. And of course, now in hindsight, I look back and all of these things are all warning signs. And I wish that medical personnel could have maybe picked up on that as well with the frequent visits, that might be a warning sign. And I think the education is getting out there. I think more and more medical staff are getting educated on these warning signs as well, and risk factors. So that does make me happy that people are going to be looking out for that as patients come in and receive treatment, even if it's treatment for something else. Reckless behavior. There was reckless behavior that was happening beforehand. And I did notice a change in Christian again the month before. It was a little more of a sense that he was withdrawing, but I took it as, he's in a relationship, he's growing up, he's probably doesn't feel like he needs mommy as much, that kind of a thought. And now I realize, no, that was more of an isolating and withdrawing, pulling away. So, like I said, there were so many risk factors and so many warning signs that not only I don't want to say just brushed off, but again, just figured that was typical behavior. And because this was behavior that Christian exhibited for not just a year, but several years. And so I look back now and think of how much pain he must have been in and how long he was trying to live with that without all of the support systems that he needed, and that connection where he maybe could have felt that he had even more support than what he felt he had with me and his very immediate family. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I don't want people to think, what I want people to remember about my son isn't that he died by suicide. That was a part of his life and his death, but that is not all of who he was. Christian had an amazing heart, very tender-hearted, very sensitive, and he was such a good friend to so many people. And I think part of that was his longing to really connect. And, you know, I talked about connectedness yesterday and how important it is to feel that you belong. And I think that's why he was there for so many people when they were having hard times, is because he wanted that connection. He wanted to connect. And sometimes his way of connecting would be, hey, who's going to come out and party with me? And I think at times maybe I think he was taken advantage of because of his generosity and wanting to have friends and have that connection. But I don't put the blame on anyone because you really can't. There's so many contributing factors to suicide, and that's what makes suicide so complicated, is the grief that comes with it. Mike just walked in. So, sorry. But I was fine until you walked in. It's okay. It's just because now I'm being self-conscious. I can always do it over. Or keep going and get a minute. But Christian was a very talented rap and hip-hop artist. And for anyone who listens to his music, it's hard to listen to because the lyrics really, his lyrics in many of his songs give you that inside look at what a person who has depression, who has anxiety, who may be suicidal, what that looks like, what that sounds like. And so it's really given me a lot of insight as I've listened to his music and realized how much he was hurting and maybe how much a lot of us just didn't realize and overlooked because that was just Christian. So I hope that me sharing some of Christian's story will get you again looking at those around you and realizing what things can look like. And I don't want anyone to make the mistakes that I feel I made in not always taking every single thing that Christian said as serious as it was. So that's all I'm going to talk about today about it. And maybe sometime I'll do another video and talk more about my experience with Christian suicide. And I better do my push-ups before I talk myself out of them. These are my last 25 push-ups to bring it to 1,100 push-ups in 44 days. So I'm going to go ahead and do my push-ups. All right. And I also have my background here is all of my pictures of Christian and his music and all of that. And these push-ups are all for you, Christian. These are my last 10, 9, 8, 6. Oh boy. And that is it. The challenge is done. The awareness of suicide prevention is going to continue. And I do have my unbreakable shirt on for suicide prevention awareness. And it says warrior. So anyone who's out there who has had someone, you know someone that has died by suicide, we're all survivors of suicide. We're all in this together, and we can draw strength from one another. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Guys, take care. Bye.